Today we're going to paint your groovy mosaic paint chip tile. So let's take a look at what's in your kit. You have your inset heart tile. You have your peace sign biscuit add-on. You'll have a little set of markers, 2 paintbrushes, a baggie with your dried paint chips. You'll have 5 paint cups of your bright colors, teal, yellow, orange, green, and purple. And you will have some shaving cream. You won't get this big can. We'll have some little travel size cans for you. Okay, so the very first thing we're going to do is draw our concentric hearts on the piece. We're going to use a marker, and that will burn off in the kiln. And we're going to make our lines about a ½ inch out, going all the way around our heart. This is just going to give us our guidelines for where to put our color. And then just repeat that, another line about a ½ inch out. So when you get to the edge of the plate, you can just go right off of the edge. Remember, this marker will burn off, so if your line is not perfect, it's okay. You can correct it a little bit with the paint. This is just to give you a guideline. So now I'm going to go and add my 3rd line, and you can see I'm already on the edge of this plaque. So I'm going to go off the edge and then pick it right back up where it leaves off. So we ran out of space here at the top, but down at the bottom we have a little more space, so we're going to keep making lines until we get to the edge. So we end up with something that looks a little bit like this. So you want to decide which order you want to put your colors in. So I've decided I'm going to start with my teal. So I'm going to paint the center of my heart teal, and then my first ring is going to be teal as well. And then I decided I'm going to go next with purple, and then orange, and then yellow and green. But you can put them in any order that you want. So I'm going to take my larger paintbrush, and I'm going to start with the teal. Now what we want is 1 good coat on the inside of this heart. Nice, keep your paintbrush nice and juicy, and get 1 really good coat on that heart. worry if you go a little bit on the edge of your heart, because the first ring is going to be the same color. Remember, this area in the middle is where our paint chip mosaic is going to go. So our teal is only going to show through in the cracks of where we put our paint chips. So while we're painting that middle part, it really doesn't matter which direction our paint strokes go. We just want to make sure it's just a really good even coat all over. Now, when we move on to the rings, we're going to pay a little more attention to which way our brush strokes go. When we get to the rings, we're going to do our brush strokes pointing to the heart. So if you can see this up close, we're going to start at the line and brush towards the heart. And all the way around, just go like this, towards the heart. And that's, let's call making it radiate out. So we're going to go all the way around. Keeping our brush strokes towards the heart. Okay, so now we've finished that first set of color. So the next thing we want to do is rinse our brush out really good. And wring out that extra water out of the brush. You don't want to make your paint get drippy. Now I'm going to go on to my next color, which is purple. With my purple, I'm going to start at the next line and keep doing my brush strokes towards my blue. Short little brush strokes from my outline to my next color. Like this. Make this a little closer so you can see. Now I am going right up to and even maybe overlapping a little bit on my blue. Keeping all those brush strokes going the same direction. That's an important part of this. So a lot of times when you come to paint with us, we tell you to paint 3 coats over everything, because that way your brush strokes won't show. But for this project, we want our brush strokes to show. But we want them to be going the direction that we're choosing. So we're keeping them all going in the same direction. going to keep doing this with all of my colors on each of my rings all the way around. Next, I'll show you how to add your mosaic paint chips. Okay, so I've done all of the rings around my heart, and next thing I'm going to do is choose one of my colors to do the edge of my plate, and that's just going to frame it out. So I'm going to use green. So when I do the edge, I'm just going to do those short little brush strokes all around again, but I'm just going to do them down and off the edge of the plaque. Okay, now my colors are all dry, the edges are all dry. The next step is going to be to do the paint chip mosaic in the center. So take your bag of paint chips and go ahead and pour some of those out on the table so you can see their shapes. And just start picking those and kind of planning how you're going to lay them out. Now, they are just all various shapes and sizes, and so putting them together is kind of like a puzzle, but this is a much easier puzzle because these little pieces you can snap and break them to the size that you want. So as you piece things together on here, and if you have just a little small corner to fill in, you can break that to fit that little corner, and then keep working and placing your next pieces and placing them together. So what we want to do is use whatever color you painted as your background. Take that color and we're going to use that like glue to stick these mosaic chips down on your piece. So open that up, and I'm going to take, what we want to do is have, about 1/4 of an inch space in between your pieces. So this will look like a regular mosaic that has some lines in between. So I'm going to take one of these and dip it in the paint and dab on a good bit of that paint. You can kind of see that it's good and wet. And if it oozes out a little when you stick it on, that is just fine because that's the color we painted for our background. So push it down gently. If you push down hard, you could snap that piece of paint chip. So if you want to keep it the size that it is, then we're going to just dab a little bit on there and stick that down the way we want it. And we're going to keep working our way around until the whole thing is filled up with our paint chips. So I'm going to snap this one, put a little dab of our paint glue on there, and fill that in. Oops, that one doesn't work that way, so I'm going to turn it a little bit and stick that down. So you can test first and see if something fits where you want it, and if it doesn't quite fit, You can just break it a little bit and make it fit to the space that you want. It's in there nicely. Okay, so I've finished filling in my heart with all of my paint chips. And you can see there's a little space in between, and that's okay. That's why you painted that blue underneath. And so I'm gonna set that aside to dry. And you can use paint chips on any of our pottery. Just make sure you paint that background and then use the glue to stick it down. So if you have some extras, just put those back in the bag and save them for your next project that you order. So the next thing we're going to do is paint our peace sign using the shaving cream technique. Okay, for the shaving cream technique, you're going to want to get something to put your shaving cream on. So it can be a paper plate or just a piece of paper or a piece of plastic wrap or whatever you have to put your shaving cream down. And you're going to need something with a straight edge. I like to use a ruler. You can use a piece of cardboard or just anything that's kind of a little stiff for a straight edge. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our shaving cream, we're gonna shake it up, and we are gonna spray some on the surface. Doesn't take much because all we're doing is this little bitty piece. So once you spray it on there, you wanna smooth it out, and that's what that straight edge is for. We just want it to be like a nice, smooth pillow. A pillow for your pottery. So we've got that smoothed out. So I chose to do 2 colors in mine. You can do 1 color, you can do all 5 colors, but I'm just gonna do 2, and I chose green and yellow because they are the ones that were least used in the design that I painted on my heart. So I'm gonna take a little bit of my green and I'm just gonna add a couple of dots. Like that. Then I'm gonna take my yellow and add a few dots of yellow. Okay, so then I'm gonna take my paintbrush, the back end of my paintbrush, and I'm going to swirl it around in my paint and get a really cool swirly design. Once it's the way that I like it, then I'm gonna take my peace sign and I'm going to set it down right on top of there. Just push it down a little bit. If I push it down, I'm gonna get the edges coated as well. Okay, so then I'm going to pick up the peace sign and I'm going to take it over to the sink and I'm going to gently rinse it. So here I am over at the sink and I've got my peace sign and I want to turn the water on to a very gentle flow. So just really gentle like that, and I'm going to rinse off the shaving cream. Don't hold it under there for too long. I don't know if you can see this. Very gently rinsing off the shaving cream. Okay. Now at this point, you have this swirl effect. The paint stays on the pottery, it absorbs in, but the shaving cream rinses away. Now, at this point, your paint is very wet, so don't touch the paint or you'll smear your design. Just very carefully set it aside to dry. So there you have it. When you bring your plaque back to us, we will fuse the little peace sign on there for you when we fire it in the kiln. So let this dry for 24 hours and then very carefully wrap up the pieces and bring them back to be overglazed and fired. So just remember, your paint chips are only on there with a dab of the paint. So we want to be super careful as you bring these back to us not to bump those off when you return them to us for firing. Have fun.